Welcome back to 110 Daily on the 110 Sports Network. Josh Doring, Chris Brown. Let's round out the show real quick here on a Friday. Best, most interesting. The elephant in the room is that we all have the same best game of the
No,
weekend.
we don't.
We
No, we don't.
don't? What?
No, we don't.
What are we doing here?
Oh.
What are we doing here?
Hmm.
All right, fine.
Hmm.
I
You're gonna throw some.
intentionally picked a different
You're
one.
gonna throw some soccer game at us,
Oh,
aren't you?
okay.
Absolutely.
Well then, fine. Chris and I are correct. You're just being different to be different. What? Okay, so I jumped the ball, and I apologize for that. Josh, what is your best game of the weekend? And then Chris and I will talk about the one that's actually the best game of the weekend. But hit us.
My best game of the weekend. Milan Derby, Inter Milan, AC Milan. First, second, Serie A. They've been going back and forth all season. Inter finally took control after just kind of keeping pace. This is this is as good as it gets. You've got everything you could possibly ask for. Intense rivalry. They're both right there in the title race. And you already had a feisty affair where Lukaku and Zlatan got mad at each other. I was intentionally trying to stay away from the other game, but also that game's 3 versus 4, and this is 1 versus 2. This is the
Well,
game
that's
of
3 versus 4 in the entire sport. This is one versus
yes,
two in one corner of the sport.
yes, but this is also the only league, only of the biggest four leagues, the deep four leagues that actually have a title race at this point. So this is pretty much outside of
Well,
your
here's my
Champions League
question:
final.
Where are they in your soccer top 25 right now?
Both top 10. Inter is fifth.
Well, I got
It's a
two.
little bit
I got
different.
two. I just giving you.
I
I
know,
got
I
two
know.
teams in mind that are higher than fifth.
But domestically speaking, this is probably the game of the season
Sure.
in European soccer, so I'm very
Mhm.
excited. And
Is it-
yes, I did stay away from the other one.
Is this a game that I have to pay some streaming fee to watch like every other?
ESPN Plus.
Oh, I have
I
ESPN
believe.
Plus. I
It's,
have
it's an
ESPN
ESPN.
Plus.
I don't think they're putting it on television because they just don't do that anymore. So I
Right.
believe it's ESPN Plus.
Right. Let's not grow the game of soccer and put
Right,
it where
right,
people
right.
can actually access it. Let's put it behind a paywall.
Right.
But there are enough avid soccer fans like you that they'll pay for it and it'll be worth it. So I might have to tune in. Chris, let's talk about the number 3 team in the country taking on the number 4 team in the country in the
Let's
world
do
of
it.
college basketball. The Michigan Wolverines headed to Columbus to take on Chris Holtman, former Butler head coach, go Dogs, and the Ohio State Buckeyes. I gotta say, this isn't a game that I thought would be showing up in our best game of the weekend segment before the season started, but nonetheless, here we are. And they're not just number 3 and 4 in the current AP poll. These are clearly 2 of the 4 best teams in the country right now, of course, behind Gonzaga and Baylor. But these teams are playing incredibly well. Chris, got anything specific that you're excited about when it comes to this top 4 matchup in Columbus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything sort of specific that I'm going to have my eye on. Usually, there's some sort of angle. For me, it's just, it is kind of simply these are 2 of the top seeds in the NCAA tournament right now. And right, there's the idea that, there's the inside path to a regular season Big Ten title, is going to come from this game. NCAA tournament seeding, of course, can these 2 teams, right, they're clearly number 3 and 4. But there's also still opportunities left for these teams to slip if something were to happen. So, keep an eye on that, of course. This Michigan team, I've been so impressed with what I've seen from them since they returned from their time off, their COVID shutdown. What I saw from them in the second half against Wisconsin that we talked about back on Monday was just so impressive. Ohio State, they just keep getting better and better and becoming more and more consistent. They were 9-1 in their past 10 games, and that was prior to last night. So I guess 10-1 in their last 11 games. They lead the country in quad 1 wins. I mean, these are just 2 really, really impressive teams that I just am looking forward to seeing compete. I mean, there isn't sort of like a bigger angle. I mean, maybe I know you guys talked about this a lot on your podcast yesterday. So, if there's sort of a particular matchup that you're looking forward to, I'm open. I'm interested to hear it. Of course, not open to hear it. I'm interested to hear it. For me, I'm just really looking forward to seeing these 2 clearly. If you want to consider Gonzaga and Baylor tier 1, I mean, this is clearly tier 1B or 1C or whatever you want to call it. This is clearly these 2 next level teams behind only those 2.
Yeah, there's a specific matchup that I'm assuming you want to get to next, Josh, because I'm right with you that this is the matchup to watch. So I'll let you take care of that part. The thing outside of all of the other stuff you guys have talked about that is the most important aspect of this to me is I'm just to the point where I I have a hard time caring about regular season titles this year and the fact that I just feel like we kind of know who the best teams in all these conferences are. I'm very interested in one question, which is can anybody beat Gonzaga and can anybody play with Gonzaga and Baylor? I guess it's two questions. But the idea of we know who the best two teams are, can anybody catch them? And do we have any hope of having a competitive national championship? So for Michigan, whose best wins are against Wisconsin, who just does not inspire me anymore, and Purdue, who's a borderline top 25 team.
And a bad matchup for them.
Yeah.
Sorry, bad matchup for Ohio State. My bad. Sorry, I'm getting teams mixed up.
We haven't seen Michigan play an elite team. It's not their fault. They haven't got Iowa yet. The Illinois game got postponed. They got the schedule just, and we've talked about this from the beginning. Their schedule was backloaded, and they missed the Illinois game. So we're going to start learning this as they finish out their season. But I want to see what they look like against an elite team because they haven't played one yet. Mm-hmm. This game is going to tell me a lot about where these two teams stand because I am convinced they're 3-4 in the country. Unless one of them if Michigan demolishes Ohio State, maybe I'll rethink that. But I think this is going to be a close game, and it's not going to change my mind based on who wins. Mm-hmm. But what is the ceiling of these teams? Are they – because Michigan's done a good job of looking really impressive with the teams they've played, much like Baylor and Gonzaga. Mm-hmm. The problem is they haven't played Texas Tech, Texas, and West Virginia like Baylor has, and to a certain extent Gonzaga has as well. They haven't gotten Iowa like Gonzaga got. So that's the other part of this for me is we're finally going to learn something about how Michigan matches up to another team on their level because they haven't played one yet.
And how they match up to a team that is actually a high-quality offense.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about, right, they're Wisconsin, Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota has one of the best guards in the country, and I'll continue to go to bat for Marcus Carr and Liam Robbins. But in general, Minnesota, right, Northwestern, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Purdue, Rutgers, right? We're not talking about a team. I just don't feel like they've played a team that on the right night, there's nothing they can do defensively against them. And Ohio State at least has the talent on that side of the basketball to at least make that a question. And can Michigan make enough shots against a high-quality offense like Ohio State to keep up even if Ohio State is playing well? Because that's one of my biggest questions with Gonzaga, right? Because if Gonzaga shoots it exceptionally well, you're never going to catch them. But even on a night that they're playing okay on the offensive end and shots are going down at a regular rate, you still got a lot of work to do to keep up with them. And that's a question that I have for this Michigan team is that even if you're able to hold Gonzaga to a relatively normal night, and a relatively normal night for that Gonzaga team is 80, right? Can they score enough points to keep up with it? It won't be the same as against Ohio State because, of course, Ohio State's not as unguardable as Gonzaga. But with that being said, this can be at least a sneak peek into that can they win this game with the final score being, 82-79? Because they could, if this is a low-scoring affair, it's Michigan's advantage all the way because of how they play defense. But can they keep up with some of the scoring that Ohio State has and that potential that they have to just put a lot of points on the board? Because when you're putting them in conversation with Gonzaga, that's going to be something that they have to do. But I'm really excited about it.
I'll mention the matchup quick then. I thought that's where you're going to go next. This is going to come down more than anything else to Hunter Dickinson on both ends of the floor.
Yep.
Can he punish Ohio State, who does not start a tall lineup, who doesn't have much size, who has struggled against other 7-footers and guys of his stature this season, and also haven't seen a guy as tall and skilled as him?
Sure.
Luka Garza's the better player, but Luka Garza doesn't quite have the same kind of physical prowess at 7'1" that Dickinson provides. Defensively, how does he match up? Because Ohio State's quote unquote forwards are 6'8", 6'9" athletic dudes. Kyle Young, EJ Liddell. I don't like the idea of playing him on EJ Liddell because EJ Liddell is the best offensive player in this game. And Kyle Young is not a good matchup either. Can they get Dickinson in foul trouble? Can they put him on the bench because he's just not able to cope defensively? Or is he able to do the job defensively, stay on the floor, and punish them on the other end? That is the matchup to watch for me, and we've talked about how you feel the same way, Josh.
Most interesting game. What do you got, Josh?
Oh, also I wanted to mention we had somebody wondering how you were doing, Mr. Molinix.
Me? I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I appreciate that. Mystery person in the chat. I appreciate that. I'm doing well. It's never Josh, how are you? It's always Josh, tell me about what's happening in the sports world. It's never Josh, how are you? I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Most interesting game. What do you got?
I went with Jazz Clippers mainly because I want to make a point.
Okay.
But also, we don't know what team the Clippers are going to put out there. There might be a Kawhi Leonard and or Paul George sighting. It seems to be up in the air at this point from what I can surmise looking at injury reports and such. Of course, they didn't play the first time. I just want to see the Jazz play the Clippers. Somebody at full strength. Here's the winning streak that the Jazz are on right now. These are their last 6 wins. Pacers, Celtics, Bucks, Heat, Sixers, Clippers. Oof. Ridiculous. And of course, they're playing phenomenal basketball. They don't lose basketball games anymore.
No, they've lost one since January 8th, by the way.
Right. That was a Sixers team without Embiid. That was a Clippers team without Leonard and George, so that just doesn't count. They haven't exactly gotten these teams at full strength, and now they're going to go play the Lakers, I think, next week. And Anthony Davis is out for a month, so that doesn't really matter either.
With that being said, though, you got like 78 points from Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris.
Right. Simmons was fantastic in that game. But the Jazz are in this weird spot where you clearly are impressed with what they've done. There are absolutely reasons to believe that this is legit, that they are this good, that they are not the same team they were last year. They are significantly better. With Bogdanovich healthy again, with Mike Conley playing much better basketball.
My boy.
Donovan Mitchell being Donovan Mitchell. There are evidence to point to say this is legit. But what does that mean in the playoffs? We can't really tell that in the regular season, but a game against the Clippers at full strength, a game against the Lakers, the Sixers, these other title contenders would give us at least some indication. If they keep beating them, then at least at some point you got to say, well, they might be able to do it in the playoffs. This isn't out of the question. And so they're in this weird spot where there's only so much more they can prove until we get to the playoffs because they've been so good.
Yeah.
So that's the larger point. There are these caveats to this winning streak, but it's still ridiculous what they've done. So I'm intrigued by the Jazz.
Yes, sir. Chris, most interesting?
I'm going to go with, I guess my most interesting game, I probably would copy Michigan, Ohio State and say it's both, but I'm going to go with West Virginia, Texas. I'm going to throw that out there. This is a Texas team that's just been kind of in a weird spot. They were in this lengthy COVID pause, and then they came out of it, and then they lost 3 straight games, and then they got 1-2 in a row. So is it like, oh, maybe they're getting back on track? And then the weather postponed a game they were supposed to have this week. They're just sort of like been all over the place, not necessarily of their own doing, some of it of their own doing, with all these ups and downs. So looked like maybe they were turning a corner after those struggles coming out of the pause, but they haven't really been tested lately with a real good opponent. Meanwhile, you have a West Virginia team that hasn't played in a week when they lost to Oklahoma narrowly in double overtime. At least looking at their schedule, when I looked at it last night, it looked like this game and then one matchup at Baylor are really their only 2 really good opponents left on the schedule. So they're running out of opportunities to get another, to sort of change the picture, change the perception of this team, improve the perception. I mean, not that they're in a bad place right now at number 13 in the country in the AP poll, but they're running out of opportunities just for anything to really be a needle mover, barring an upset loss. So this is one of the ones that could be a real opportunity for them. So I have my eyes on this one tomorrow afternoon.
Texas is a perfect example as to why what Baylor's done in the Big 12 is so impressive.
Yep.
They had a 5-game stretch in which they went for 1-4, them being Texas.
Yeah.
They won the game against Kansas State that they had, but they lost to Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Baylor, and Oklahoma State.
Right.
Now,
and I don't feel any different about them.
Right. They need to do better at protecting home court. I feel all 3 of those losses, the Oklahoma State loss was on the road, but those first 3 losses, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Baylor, all at home. I'd like my top 15 team to defend home court a little better than that. But they lost to Texas Tech and Oklahoma by combined 3 points, so it was close. But it's a testament to how impressive Baylor has been this year because, right, like you said, Josh, they weren't the 4th best team in the country, which is where they were in the AP poll at one point. But I don't feel all that differently about them than I did when they were 10-1 and had just beaten West Virginia on the road. But they went 1-4. I just don't feel differently about them, and it's testament to how good Baylor's been this year. And not only has Baylor won all of those games, there haven't really been many games that have been in question, right? I mean, the game that was even kind of in question was Texas Tech, and they end up winning that game 68-60 and controlled the final parts of that game. So shouts to the Baylor Bears. I'm cheating a little bit because it's not a game. I'm going with the Genesis Invitational. And on the PGA Tour at Riviera. Riviera is one of the best, if not the best, golf course on the PGA Tour. It's just players rave about it every single year. It's always a really nice field because when Tiger invites you to a tournament, you go, you play in the tournament. That's just how it works. But the second round's just started. Brooks Koepka's up near the top of the leaderboard. Jordan Spieth up there again in the area. Got some other big names playing well. So I'll be paying attention to that one this weekend in between all the basketball to keep an eye on. Anything else, gentlemen?
I don't think so.
That's a wrap for Friday. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day here at 110 Daily. We'll be back on Monday to hopefully talk about the all-timer that Michigan and Ohio State was. Just give me a close basketball game, please. That's all I asked for. Maybe we'll have Kawhi and PG against the Jazz to talk about, and maybe Jordan Spieth could actually get it done one of these times after having a 54-hole lead. But whatever there is to talk about on Monday, we will come and talk about it. Please enjoy your weekend. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we will see you back here on Monday.